evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. To Loren. Loren is a friend of the show. Been on a few times the past couple of years.
Hey, Sean,
It's hard to not have you on because you're in like 18,000 bands. So you're a busy man. You're a busy man.
what can I say? I'm a rock and roll junkie, right? So,
But they're all quality bands though. I mean, you really,
yeah.
you know, you really do put your effort in and it's quality. So it's all good, man. So your second album we're promoting now for the Slamdistas, right? The second one?
Yes, Slamdinistas' second album will be coming
Yes.
out April 25th on Rumbar Records, Wild and Restless. And, we're excited about it. And, there's been two singles pulled so far.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, came out first. And then we just released the second single with video, Where I Belong. So, yeah, we're excited about it. Compared to the first album, which was put together when the world stopped during COVID,
Right.
and it really wasn't a band then. It kind of evolved into the band during that first album,
Right.
and then we got to go out and be a real rock band and go play live shows and went to New
For me,
York.
yeah.
And after about a year and a half, 2 years, we knew that we had a bunch of new songs that we wanted to go and record. And here comes the second piece of vinyl.
Well, first, a couple of things I want to say, and we'll have you hop in, is I love the fact that right out of the gate, the band felt like a band on the first album. It really felt like a cohesive live unit. Now, I've seen online, obviously, I don't live near you guys to see you, but you guys have been playing out a lot since, or when you can, as a band. Obviously, prior to the beginning of this, it was less of a band and more of a kind of a project, but you still sounded like a full touring band because of you're all seasoned musicians. There's no, you know what I mean, hobbyists here. So I think it shows in the songwriting and the teamwork. Um, and the energy on the second album just picks it up even more. It's a fun rock and roll album. It's not, it doesn't feel preconceived. It just feels like it's a good go out, have a beer or not have a beer, have some water, have a soda, you know, whatever, and have fun. Go out with your friends and have fun. Album.
Yeah, I think you're right. Just going out playing live shows all over the place on the West Coast and going to the East Coast really gelled the band.
Mm.
Um, because I mean, you can create a cool rock vibe in the studio, but it's not quite the same
Right.
going out and playing in front of audiences. And for this band, going to the East Coast was a huge thing because that was the first out of town shows that we did as a band. And it really gelled together, especially playing around, the Lower East Side of Manhattan and some of those cool rock and roll haunts. It just all fell together. And it was interesting when we did go there,
Hmm.
a lot of people had mentioned to us, especially Paul Mara Del Ran on Underground Garage, and we played with her band. She said, your first album's cool and those songs are great, but
Yeah.
seeing you guys live, it's just way more kind of like dirty Lower East Side rock and roll band. And
It feels like you could be a New York band though. I am from Connecticut, not that far from New York. It feels like you got that rock and roll New York, dirty vibe to them.
yeah, yeah.
And that's a compliment, by the way, to
Well,
people that
thank
don't know.
you. Thank you. You know, and we wanted this second record, especially after Paul Mara had mentioned that, to reflect a more of a live thing. And the first record's cool, and there's some really great songs
Yeah.
on it. But with this one, we really wanted to make it be a bit more edgy. I mean, the world we live in is more edgy than it was 5 years ago.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. It's very
And
divisive.
so, and I think that the different songs that we brought in on this record reflect that. And it was really fun it was a fun challenge to be able to pull some of these songs off that is on this second album.
How did you choose a set list when you guys played out? Because you had that first album, Unproven, right? And a new album. So putting it all together was a challenge. Like, hey, I want to do some new stuff. I want to do the old stuff. Like,
You know, that's a good question. Uh, like especially going to New York, some of the songs that are on the second album we
mhm.
had been playing in our live set, like "Oh Yeah," "I'm Okay." What else? And but a majority of the second album was done in the studio. We hadn't played those
Yep,
songs live. Sick of, sick of, was it sick of that? We had been playing that. So,
yeah.
but
Oh,
songs
sick of it all. Sick of it all.
sick of it all. Sorry, I just got back from Nashville. I'm a little like sleep deprived.
Dude, man, you probably so many bands, there's so many song titles, there's so many song titles from so many bands so similar. I get my kids' names mixed up, so I wouldn't. Song titles don't count.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the live shows going to New York really helped get the vibe of what we wanted to come across on the second LP, you know?
Well, what's the process? So, like, from songwriting now, obviously the project, right this time, a lot of live music. Are you guys like each of you guys writing songs, coming together, writing them, or someone writing the core songs and the lyrics? They're gonna be like, how was the process of writing them? And then the second part would be, how did you approach it in the studio? Because now, what people don't know is you guys are all seasoned veterans in different bands and projects. So you've kind of already gone through the rigmarole, the egos, and this, and the ups and downs. You know what's good. You know how to handle things as adults, and to enjoy it. So how was the process looked at moving forward with songwriting and recording? Because you guys have prior knowledge of working in other situations.
Yeah, well, we had a pretty big change between that first record and the second record.
Yeah, of course, of
Paul
course.
Paul Ill, who played bass on Gabriel's solo records, and I've
Hmm.
played in many bands with Paul Ill. He had other commitments come in when we started to put the second record together. And his good buddy Pete Downing from Boston, killer bass player, had suggested Pete, check out the Slamdinistas. So Pete came in. We didn't know if he was going to stay. He was going to play a couple shows with us, and I think
Yeah.
the songs kidnapped him, and he like became the new bass player. Um, so on this record, Pete brought in a couple songs, like Johnny
Oh, good.
Wallflower, uh, which very interesting song when
Hmm.
I heard the demo, and then he brought in the Christmas song that we did, Santa's in a
Let's see, as a
Pumpkin Now.
punk band now.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And that came out like pre-album that we put that out. So he brought those in. Gabriel had some songs that he had already written, like um Give Me was it Give Me One Good Reason?
Hmm.
Give Me a Reason. You got the titles there. You can
I'm
help.
looking right here. Yeah. Okay, give me a good reason.
Give Me a Good, yeah, that one. He had brought that in. Wild and Restless, the title
Oh yeah, yeah.
song.
Oh, yeah. Reason to believe. You think right?
Reason to Believe, sorry.
Yes.
Um,
No, no, no.
yeah, so he had that previously. He had showed those couple songs to me. Wild and Restless was so cool because it reminded me of
Mhm.
the band X, just this kind of rockabilly kind of
It does feel that, yeah.
punk thing. And and then he had another one, Weather the Storm, and I heard that, and I just thought, wow, we could make this like Cheap Trick kind of sounding song,
Yep.
a little bit of uh even I don't know, Weezer meets Rick Springfield on that one. You know, um I bring riffs in, and Gabriel and I co-write that together. He does the lyrics. I brought in Where I
Yeah.
Belong. Um Latchkey Kids, I brought that in on a Sunday morning, just the music of it. And Gabriel came up with the title Latchkey Kids, and I thought was very interesting. And he brought in Rock and Roll Clown. Sometimes like he'll bring in the songs as a singer-songwriter, and I'll hear them different and kind of Slamdinista them out, and I'll go, oh, well, that sounds like New York Dolls to me, you know? And
Right.
so we kind of like um just look at the songs that way. So they came from a few different places on this record. And the cover song, Oh Yeah, which I had wrote with Texas Terry back in the early 90s when I played with her.
I think, and people are gonna like this album. So I obviously pre-heard it a bunch, and, I downloaded it and listened to it. I like it because A, the songs feel confident. They have a little swagger to them, and I'm thinking in my head now visually because I'm very visual. I think it feels if people like the rock from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it's not dated like that, but it's got that energy of like the energy of some of the punk. But when rock wasn't so defined yet in the early 80s, and it's got the fear, it's got like all these different bands into it, but it's got the influence of artists that have been playing for decades, which really makes a great, and the production is great. It's very clean sounding. Um, it's very in your face. Uh, it almost feels like you got like a live little party with you. So I can only imagine like live how much fun you guys are. Because the album, when you put it in, it's very catchy. I think it's nice. It's very accessible for a lot of people too. I don't think it's gonna be like you can put it in and just enjoy it. You know what I mean? It's not just like you have to listen to it 15 times for some people. It's just too much. You know what I mean? It's just very catchy songs too.
Well, you mentioned the 60s kind of thing and 70s and 80s. We definitely pull from all those decades because we lived through those and
Those are the best
our hero,
decades for songwriting. Let's be honest with you.
yeah, our
Sorry.
heroes and our heroes and stuff and
Yeah,
records in those days like you'd put on a Rolling Stone record, not every song
yeah.
sounds the same. Not every song is a rock.
No.
And and then with the 60s side of things, for me, um, I like songs under 3 minutes just because
Mhm.
you get in and get out. I mean, growing up with AM radio and all those great songs from like 64 up to, to the advent of FM radio, you know, you could a 2 minute, 39-second song could feel like a lifetime to you if it's really written well.
Right.
So, like where I belong on this record, I always like enamored the Kinks, and and it's just like that's very like a Kink song if you really
Mhm.
dissect it, and get
Okay.
in.
Yeah. I guess the thing like yeah. It's funny because you think about bands like that. People only know like two or three songs back then, but for me, like I've listened to a lot of Kinks albums, like a lot of Beach Boys albums, like not just the populars, like a lot of different songs, different times. Like I'm a big songwriter person, but to me, when I hear something, I hear like the deep parts of like, oh, this is back when like songs were deeper and richer. And to write a song, a good song in under 3 minutes, it's just as hard as writing a long song because if you don't get to the point of the song in time and you cut it too soon, if it's too premature, it's gonna kill a song. So there is an art of writing a good 3 minute song too. You know, it's
Yes, and believe it or not, there are radio station formats out there that if it's over 3 minutes, you're not in their time window. So if you can deliver a song under 3 minutes, still like you would think like, oh, with Spotify and all that stuff these days, but terrestrial radio, they still like songs somewhat short, so not that we write songs to be format friendly. I just think, there's so many distractions these days and people on their phones and their phones are beeping and
mhm,
people's attention span. I mean, if you don't grab them within 20 seconds, they're probably moving on to something else. So, um, but that's that case. But the other side of the coin would be Latchkey Kids. The long version of that song is almost 7 minutes on the record.
yeah,
And then there's the radio edit that's like like maybe 340 or something.
hmm
And then of course the dance mix. But with that song, especially after Gabriel got the lyrics together, um, I thought it would be really cool if we could take the feel of Miss You by the Rolling Stones, cross it with Mystery Achievement by the Pretenders and come up with
Yeah.
the 70s, early 80s almost dance thing. And and I said, this is our record. There is no record company budget, and let's see if we can just play this to the end and let Paul Rossler, who produced us, leave leave the tape running. And it really morphed into a really great jam that you would get,
Yeah.
you know. And yeah, we even got Paul to play keyboards B3 on it and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's got to listen for everybody. I definitely think it's not just a generation like for people our age, like I'm like gonna be 55 and like and stuff and older and in the 40s. I think people in their late teens and their 20s can pick up. It's a good because it's a good just dance rock and roll record, but it also can be a gateway to lead you to if you like these guys, you always have to listen to your influences and then go back two more influences back to that. You know what I'm saying? Because this has got, the songs are just good, and Gabriel's got a great voice and he's a great entertainer, good storyteller, and he sings it
Yeah.
right. He doesn't oversing it, he doesn't undersing it. It feels real. It feels like he's with you, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think lyrically, I've known him since the early 90s and stuff,
Hmm.
on the LA scene, but when he asked me to produce his solo stuff, I really started uh learning about his lyrics and his insight, and um it's pretty insightful lyrics, kind of social observations,
Yeah.
personal observations of uh, you know, actually dealing with the world that we're living in and dealing with self-doubt. I mean, we're all human beings. We have our ups and our downs, and he honestly faces those demons and stuff with a sense of hope. And I thought it was really cool because it's really hard to write, songs like that. I mean, there's great songs like Rock and Roll Clown. You can kind of, you know, spoof on a Johnny Thunders New York Dolls thing, but Latchkey Kids or Reason to Believe or these songs are pretty insightful in their own way on a personal and social level, I think.
Right. I did think well, it offers a lot for everybody, and I think it's important because hearing the first album, hearing this one, and then hearing a lot of the releases of older albums that cross over into when I started this during the COVID, and now, and then like the administration and each side of America is angry at each other, and no one's getting along, and I think music is so good because it's one of the few places most of the time, unless you're on Facebook, when people on music will not go after each other for other side related things, where we can still enjoy it. And I think it's so important as people to celebrate things to help bring things back.
Yeah.
Not trying to get over politically, I'm saying, but God, if we could all just get together and jam out to a song or go off to a dance or something and hang out together, start meeting in the middle again. We start becoming who we are. I mean, art is for the soul. That's what music is, you know?
Exactly. I mean, you know, these days the political thing is a hotbed. I and like I getting back to Gabriel's lyrics and
Yeah, yeah.
and
That was like kind of my point
our
with him is
our
he's kind of on spot.
outlook, it's more you know, personal reflections, social
Mhm.
interaction with other human beings, like, may it be interacting with other band members, you know, wives, girlfriends, your friends, and still keep a real sense of upbeat, fun rock and roll vibe on top of all that.
Well, I do think as we get older, a lot of people, and like myself included, I enjoy every now and then when there's some kind of relatable other lyrics that just aren't 100% fun album, like everything's just totally goofy. I like to have something go, I can relate to that, or I do feel glimmer of hope. I feel it because especially when you hear a song and it's got some good riffs and it's upbeat, and you hear a good sentiment, inspiring about like today, the world, you're like hope. Hope feels good. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And to me, at this age, a lot of us, I think, are like, yeah, I like to hear hope. I like to hear positivity. I like to hear positivity. And I think this album shares a lot of sunshine like that. Not like some kind of, hippie sunshine, but it's positive. It's upbeat.
Yeah, I think, I think for example, like Led Zeppelin on Led
Hmm.
Zeppelin 4, there was some rockers on that, but then there's Stairway to Heaven, and you talk
Yeah.
about a reflective song that you could take many different ways, but
Yeah.
it was made you think, and it showed the depth of that band and stuff. So, yeah, that's what we wanted to do on this record. We wanted to take some chances. I mean, to do a mid 70s disco dance thing, that's quite
That's
ambitious
great.
if you can pull it off.
Well, I think you guys have your merch. You guys have everything so organized to begin with, to be a band that's a newer band, pretty much a newer band with the vinyl and the production, the videos. You guys have it all set up quite well, actually, and tight. You're a tight machine. And considering it's a newer, you know, band to the world, which is fantastic and fun, to see. Like
Yeah,
videos and
you know,
merch.
yeah, you got to have your branding together and a vibe and stuff. And um, you know, like on the production side of things, I had worked with the Hollywood Stars who I manage, and they're on Rumbar also. And their last album was done by Paul Roessler, and Paul's reputation goes back to the 70s. He was in that cutting edge uh new wave, not new wave, but kind of like I don't know what you'd call the screamers. It was very techno punk, and
Yeah,
yeah, and he's just been uh in a few other different bands, Twisted Roots, and then his production skills over the last 25, 30 years, just the records he's made. And um, when the Hollywood Stars were doing their record with Paul, I was just blown away by the way he interacted with the musicians in that band, um, and his production skills and advice is just really, really good. And himself, I mean, his musicality, I mean, the guy could probably write for a symphony orchestra, I mean, all
really.
parts, and he's very astute as far as kind of proper music schooling, where I'm completely the opposite. I can't read a note and stuff, but yeah, it was like,
But there's more people like you, though. I mean, when I started doing the show 5, 6 years ago, and I play guitar horribly, fun. I'm like, I'll never get this. And the more I talk to people, like everyone's like, I can't play guitar. I can't read music. I can't do this. I can't. And I'm like, does anybody read music besides Ingrid? Like, seriously, but no, like, because like everybody has different things you consider shortcomings, but they're not shortcomings. It's just your own, everyone it's your own way to get to where you're going musically, and it's brilliant because it allows people who's so individual with their playing, you know?
yeah, yeah, he did. Paul brought all that out, and you know, um, like the first album, I produced the first Slams album, and then I did this, but kind of co-produced it with him. But for me, it was just in the band, it was like working. If you ever got the chance to work with a guy like Brian Eno, he's just that kind of like he's cool in so many ways.
Yeah,
So, and we'd explain to him, well, this is what this song means to us or feels to us,
yeah,
and he completely vibed into that. Like, um, so like for example, like Johnny Wallflower, which was kind of one of those different songs in the record,
yeah.
and like a David Bowie meets the Strokes meets Willie DeVille, um, with Kevin Richardson from the Backstreet Boys singing backgrounds on it. Uh, you know, sounded like he's in the Kings of Leon, but so Paul would bring all that stuff out, and it was just great to be able to kind of paint this landscape of what the songs we felt made us feel like, and he kind of made it happen.
Is he doing a lot of albums from artists similar? or is he doing a mixture? Because it's got to feel good for him to do artists like you and work with you to begin with that are similar. I mean, it feels like it's got to be right in his pocket. Like it's just like this is what I do. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
well, he was around in the early punk days, but he's very,
Right, and it's changed nowadays. A lot of the kids are younger and different sounding. So,
yeah. I mean, he, works with Josie Cotton, this a
mhm,
lot of LA bands, Street Walking Cheetahs. It's quite varied the artists that he produces.
right.
It's all over
It
the
still has that original soul though too. A lot of those artists though are still heart rock and roll stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not so Instagram ready type of rock and roll is what I'm saying. I don't know how to say that without knocking some of these newer artists that are more about the image and pictures and stuff without getting dirty and writing a good rock and roll song and not worrying about anything else but a good song. You know, like all these bands you've mentioned and you guys, it's all about the song first, and then we'll worry about what we're going to look like and what we're going to. You know what I'm saying? That's what the foundation is for me. A lot of this, and I think that's missing a lot lately, and that's why this album feels fresh.
Well, thank you. I mean, what else lives on after we're all gone is the music. And to get to your point about maybe Instagram influencer types or you hear stories where these guys or people like have 1 million followers, but they can't sell any tickets live. It's like,
I do know, yeah.
yeah, so, and not that we can sell thousands of tickets either, but yeah, I don't know. It was always about the songs that started me to just want to play rock and roll, and
Hmm.
um I'll tell you a story. When I first moved to Hollywood and with the Dogs, my band, and our first Hollywood show was opening for Van Halen before they got signed, Quiet Riot, and the Dogs. And when I saw Eddie and Dave Roth and those guys, I was kind of like blown away. And seeing Eddie it was like Jimi Hendrix from another solar system.
Right.
Um, and for me, just as a guitarist and a hopefully a songwriter, I kind of went, I can't physically do what he's doing. I really don't want to do that. And Tom Petty's album first came out right around then in 1976. And I thought that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to try to learn how to write a good song, which I felt Tom Petty really latched
Hmm.
on to. Tom Petty did wear his influences very thin on his sleeve, but
Oh
you
yeah.
could tell that he loved the Birds or whatever. But the guy knew how to write a catchy song. And so that's what I tried to kind of go down that road for myself personally.
Well, I think it's shown not just in this band, all your bands, and I think in each time, it's you're just perfecting your art, and I think Instagram is great if you can promote your album on it because promoting is great. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with selling a song to a movie or to a commercial. Who doesn't want to make money for something you wrote? It's supposed to have someone else take it and make the money. Nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is if you're not getting the big picture of trying to be like, I want to be a rock star. I hate that term, but you've never actually done an album, played a tour, got in the back of the van with these, and really put the time out there. And you're about pictures and this and that, and then they're about the accounts and how many people. I've heard many artists, platinum artists. They said when they first started, they're like, oh yeah, Instagram. They said, how many do you have on Instagram? They're like, I got like 2 or 3 platinum albums. They're like, yeah, but you don't even have like 30,000 people on Instagram. They're like, yeah, but I've sold albums and people know me when I go to town. That
Yeah,
was bananas. I think it's changed a little bit now because they've realized that you can't fill a club with an Instagram, not make believe numbers or bots.
yeah, I mean, it's a necessary evil. I think in the early days of, let's say, Facebook, it was easier to
Yeah.
reach your fans and stuff. Now it's like if you don't pay to do this or that, maybe your same 25 people see what you're doing. So the trick is somehow to get out of you know, that kind of uh circle of control. And
I definitely agree.
so like great like people like you with this podcast, via like YouTube is is a way out to get out there too, and it's great. So thank God
Well,
for, you know, laughing monkey music
well,
and
thank you.
other guys like yourself that are passionate about music and talking to artists because it's we're outside of that uh media blockade. I won't mention any names, so but
Well, it was, I went to school for music and I ended switching into whatever. I know how bad it was, and like I have a outside IT career, so I don't collect money off of YouTube. I don't do nothing. I don't pay money. I don't promote my stuff. I don't make money off this. All I do, 100% is just for the artists because I really want live music and original music in you guys, and of course ladies and stuff. But I'm saying I want you people to survive and be out there without having to do so much other jumping through. I want you guys to just write an album and talk about it like you speak and not have clickbait and have, of course, a good rock and roll story is great. We love them. We love the back of looking at a vinyl album and thinking about Allman Brothers or Van Halen. But we don't need to hear about all this other jibber jabber. We want to hear about how these songs are written and then go check it out. That's it. You know, yeah, YouTube's great. I'm on YouTube. I'm on every other, streaming platform, but the visual of YouTube actually seems probably one of the strongest those because people like to look at the artist. I think that's a person thing. I think that's one of the things that you maybe lose on Instagram. And I don't do TikTok. I don't do any of that other stuff either. I don't work hard on any of the media because it doesn't matter. I think it's overrated. Is what I'm trying to tell everybody out there. Just listen to albums. You know what I mean? Go online, Google what you want, take recommendations, and just listen to rock and roll, man. It's that easy.
yeah, it's with the whole technology thing of everything you just mentioned, and there's so many ways to find new music, hear music and stuff, which is great, but compared to, let's say, the early 70s after
Mhm.
FM radio happened, pre-MTV, there was way less choices back in the day, and uh you know it was easier to find music. Of course, the record companies really
It was directed towards you with suitcases of cocaine and dollar bills.
that never happened in the music business.
Let
Come
me tell you something. There, you actually, it was funny when I first started college, music college for like was a recording and music business school. The first thing they said is like, when my the music business comes goes first thing radio. He talks about coming in the suitcase of either having cocaine or money and payola. First thing we talked about off the record in class of how things work. This was the '90s, so it was like the end of the days, you know. So there was it was a much of a direct way of doing it, and the artists were getting screwed differently. Now there's so much to look at, and the artists are still getting screwed. So nothing's changed there. So now it's about finding if an artist, and this I'm saying this now more generically, so a little off track, but you find your niche audience, and artists have built their own websites or their own servers or this and that, and you serve your audience and you serve who you are, you can be successful because you're not shooting buckshot at a barn. You're focusing on your audience, and your audience respects it, and there's a communication and a relationship with you talking to them or whatever. It's reciprocal. There are, that's more the way it's manageable nowadays for bands. It's not this, I need to get signed to Atlantic or Capitol with Mariah Carey. That doesn't happen. That's not how you survive. You know, you tour, you do this stuff, you talk to podcasts, you're on socials, regular socials, and you talk to people, you do interviews, and you do albums, you do clubs, and you say hi afterwards. You know, that's it. Everything else is
exactly.
just baloney and too much. Too much. And that's for artists. Artists, I just want new artists to focus on your music, man. Don't worry about all this social media stuff. Pick one thing, put it out there, and focus on your music and playing live. I mean, it serves you well.
Yeah, I think there is a whole underground out there where you don't even a lot of new young bands, like they'll sell out venues and stuff, and
Hmm.
I've never heard of the bands, and you look at their social media page and there's not that many followers. There is still the underground for people that follow really great bands with great songs. I think stuff happens outside the whole social media world.
I agree.
You know, what that is exactly, I don't know, but it's refreshing to see new artists. Um, and like, yeah, the record companies are still there, but you know, it was always the music business was always a bit of a rip off for the artist, I mean, they would
But
make
yeah,
all the money. Um, and you know, for example, when Little Caesar got back together after being on Geffen Records and stuff, when we put it back together in the early 2000s and started going to Europe, you know, thank God there was Facebook and stuff like that.
Hmm.
We realized there was a fan base out there, but we've done like I think 8 or 9, 10 tours to Europe over the years now, and
Hmm.
without record company support, uh,
See,
music's gotten out there, fans are there, and yeah,
but it's
we
in-house and it's focused is what I'm saying. There's no particular formula, but if a band keeps it together and keeps it in-house, it doesn't worry about the other stuff because you guys, yeah, let's see, so you guys aren't rock stars. You guys are like musicians that play and do stuff. So if you do it that and you keep it like that, that's how musicians are doing it nowadays. That's the real world, you know.
yeah, you just if you're passionate about music in a band, uh I've always done crazy stuff. Oh yeah, drive out from Detroit to Des Moines for a percentage of the door in the middle of the winter. Oh, every Thursday night when you do this, it's a lot of people, and then there's like nobody there. I mean,
Right.
you just go do stuff. Hopefully, you make the wise choices where you can't go in debt, but you
Or it's an investment in the next 3 years you coming back.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I think bands just are driven, they're passionate to meet fans that new fans maybe to turn people on to your music or whatever. And you just do it because you have to do it. And I never really did it to be successful. I was so naive in the early days. I didn't even know you could pick up chicks being in a band. I mean, to me, I was just a fan, excuse me, of the music. And
Yeah.
and you just go do it because you love it. And it's exciting to go to new cities and meet fans, in America or around the world. And I've been lucky enough, to go to Japan twice with the Dogs, go to Europe about 10 times with Caesar, and travel around the US with the Slamdinistas and other bands that I play in. And
Hmm.
that's the best part, is just traveling and meeting fans and different culture.
But it's real. But it's real and you're real. And that's why I love having you on. I mean, that's why you've been on before a few times. And I'll have you back again. It's you're a real artist and you do it for rock and roll. I mean, that's why I do this show. I mean, I'm glad I don't do it for money. It's you know what I mean? And that's just me telling people to do podcasts. I don't do podcasts for money either. You do it because you love it. You want to support something. That's it. And if you do it because you love it, yeah, you got a good chance of getting better. Than you'll at least enjoy it no matter where it goes. If it does good, even better. you know,
Amen.
you
Amen.
know, album 425, second album. I'm gonna put the link to the first interview that for the first album, Gabriel, because he's such a charming guy to talk to also, so people can go circle back and see that interview also. Um, where do you want people to go? I'll put the links underneath. Where do you want people to go for all your
You
socials
know,
and to
um,
purchase your stuff?
yeah, the Bandcamp thing, there's pre-sales going up on the CD and the vinyl for
Hmm.
the new album. You know, the usual suspects, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, and we're up on the streaming platforms.
What about any tours? Any dates we can look at? People can look
We
forward to this
have a
summer.
record release party in Los Angeles at our venue downtown, the Redwood Bar and Grill.
Mhm.
Uh, Rumor has it that we have another couple Southern SoCal shows after that. And then, we are talking with our record company, Lou, back in Boston at Rum Bar, about going to Boston, New York in the fall time, and then ultimately checking out how this band could get to Europe. Because I think we've had great reviews from the last record, starting to get new reviews from
Mhm.
Europe about this record. So, love to
I
go
think if
there.
you could get one festival, if you could get a one festival sandwich with some other bands similar, and people just get expand a chance to be like, "Who's this? I don't know." And they go there and they're there. They're like, "Oh, oh, that's all you need to light the spark." You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, We hope for that, So I mean, there's a little bit of there's a lot of hard work a band has to do, and then I think there is the luck factor of the rock and roll gods blessing you and stuff when
But
you
the work and talent's got to be there first, because if you get the luck
yeah.
and you don't have their stuff, you're gone in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So,
and I think, you know, if an artist, uh, they're nice people, they work with promoters and podcasters and labels and stuff, and they're not a pain in the ass to work with, good things happen to people like that. I mean, that's excuse me, that's what's I think seen me through like 5 decades of playing rock and roll, and I've
yeah.
seen and played with a lot of other bands, and it's a real amazing thing to play with other bands that are just nice people. For example, Little Caesar went to the UK and did a support tour for Taiketo.
Mhm.
Caesar played middle slot, and Danny Vaughan, the lead singer in Taiketo, was just amazing, and he had
Oh, he's super nice.
helped
I've had him met before. He's super nice.
yeah, and help bring us onto the tour. And for me, I, I've been around this for a long time, but it was so refreshing for myself and the band just to meet somebody that was a sincere, great, talented person. And
Yeah.
that tour was great, and the audiences loved it because the trickle down vibe of that tour was
Yep.
great. And I think if artists just try to, be cool people, especially to other bands, you know, uh, good stuff can happen when you least expect it. So,
Literally having this conversation is more something like, and if you're a younger musician trying to get into it, you need to be an auxiliary player that can come in and maybe play with some of the other bands when they need a guitar player. You need to be able to move, play music, not even be sober, but you need to be able to be sober for the gigs, be responsible, be kind, and have fun. Nobody wants a rock star. Those days are gone. I can name 20 guys on one hand, not one hand like an octopus. I could even have people that are just good guys that will just come in, play a gig, and go back out and work on their other stuff. You have to be flexible. You got to be able to work with people. You got to have a good attitude. You gotta have fun. It's not the 80s anymore. You can't just be some knucklehead.
yeah, I agree. I agree, Sean. And,
No.
in the circles that I travel in, there aren't big agents. I mean, we do have agents in Europe and stuff we work with, but every musical organization, band that I'm in, most of the gigs come from other musicians, other
Yeah.
bands, and it's a tight-knit scene. I mean, there's a guy in LA, Pat Todd. He has helped so many musicians. He's helped the Dogs get our European record deal. And I'm tight with guys like that. We just kind of stick together. And there's no bullshit. You say what you mean and you do it. And
Mhm.
and it kind of reminds me of maybe the way it was in the jazz scene in the 30s. I know all those jazz artists hung together and
Yeah.
respected and helped each other. And it's sort of that way in indie rock and roll these days. And I know it's that way in the with younger bands like Starcrawler from LA. They have a
Yeah.
tight knit base of young bands that they work with in their rock and roll community. So it's like, and that's the cool part is meeting and playing with other bands that are just cool. Lets me know that I'm not freaking crazy.
Well, you're a good guy, and that's the thing. I'll wrap on this one point. I do. The fact you've been back is so much. I don't circle back and have knuckleheads on. Maybe once or twice I'll have whatever it is. You find to be a repeat artist on this show, you're the real deal. You're a real good guy. Coming in. So
Well,
that
thank
says a
you.
lot about you to the respect on this show. Of course, you're always welcome back. So
I
the
guess
album.
my mama who loved Elvis Presley tried to raise me right.